one of the things that I was interested is I'd known that you had said when you had made To Give You Love that you were all excited because of how great you thought it was in the studio, but when you heard it on the radio, that it didn't sound as good or it just didn't meet that level of quality. So explain sonically what you heard in the studio versus what you heard when that song was getting on the when it got played on the radio.
Yeah, see, that was the thing, and you learn when you're an upcoming producer. Certain rooms had like soundproofing and, you know, dynamically, you know, it's like singing in your shower and then getting out your shower. It's a different sound. So we were in the studio. We had already was in love with the record. I think there's a real version of it the way it was out somewhere on a basement tape or somewhere. But so the engineer goes, wait a minute, I got an idea. Listen to this. And he puts this gigantic reverb on it. And like I said, the effects back then was like detrimental. Like you stayed away, but it was toxic, but it sounded so good in that environment that we was grooving to it. And as a matter of fact, Lyor Cohen was doing a session in the next room. He came in the room and asked us, was we signed? He was ready to sign us. But we thought we had a monster hit. And you know, when you're independent, you cut the third man out. We was like, okay, we don't need you. We said, yeah, we signed. Looking back, we said, no, let's do the deal right here. Because it wasn't even when we heard it on the radio. When you got home, it wasn't the same. But see, back then we didn't have the levels of capabilities we have today where we can change things up in Pro Tools and stuff like that. And we were on a limited budget, and the budget was up, and we had to go with it as it was.
And was this at LL and Tila Rock and everything already been out on Def Jam, or what was the time?
Yeah, that was after that was out. That was when they were out. But Lyor walked in. That was our first meeting of Lyor. He walked in and he was like, "You guys signed?" You know, everybody was grooving. It sounded like if we could have got the record to actually sound like that, the way it did in the studio, everywhere else, we'd have been good. But unfortunately, it was only in that room. I'll give you another example of that. One of my brothers, Scorpio from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, he had a solo record out. And he did it in Arthur Baker's old studio. Me and DJ Red Alert was in there, and it was the greatest record we ever heard. Red was like, I'm gonna ask Arthur for some acetates. I'm gonna play that this weekend. And I was round the block. I was telling her about, yo, Scorp joint is gonna smash. I was sitting by the radio, and Red played something from Scorp. So I was like, oh, that must be the B-side. I'm talking about it didn't sound nothing like it did in the studio. Like, it was like a whole nother record.
Yeah.
And then at the end, so I seen Red later that week. I said, yo, why you ain't play the Scorp joint? We heard this. He said, I did. I said, you did? He said, yeah, I thought it sounded different. I said, yeah, it sounds way different. You know, rooms had a way of changing the dynamics of sounds. And like I said, for people out there who really don't understand it, it's the equivalent of like when you're singing in the bathroom and it sounds so artistically good, then you sing out on the regular space and it's a whole nother dynamic. So that's the closest way to put it.
Right. And then from those days up till now, with being a DJ in that background, what, because a lot of course, great producers in rap were DJs and still are. For you, what effect do you think being a DJ before you got into producing has had on your career?
Well, that got you into the beats. Cause like when I used to go to the parties, you know, and I'd be listening to like the Cold Crush or Fantastic Five or Flashing Them, Theodore, I would get into the beats before the MCs, because as we know that, well, a lot of us don't know, the MCs were late to the game of what people now call hip hop.
And they supported the DJ.
Yeah, it was always about the beats, the beats. So I went to the beats first. Now we measure your MCs, you know. How good was the DJ? How was he cutting? Was he on time? Did he have secret breaks that nobody had? You know, it was just different levels, but it made me beat orient. That's why when I first started rapping, I was a little lagged behind because I was so intrigued with getting the beats right. I didn't really put too much time into the delivery and stuff like that. And so it took a progression of just doing it over and over, you know, and I got better.
Well, it's funny you say that because the one person that I think had some reverb that worked really well and that also had a little bit of an offbeat was Schoolie D. I always thought, because P.S.K, you know, the reverb on that, but then also I know from knowing him and talking to him over the years, he was doing all that live, so he was slightly offbeat.
But P.S.K was like an anomaly. Like I said, effects were detrimental. They were toxic. And when you heard P.S.K, you know, it was something, I know Joe the Butcher engineered that record up in Studio 4 in Philly. And I told him it was like the greatest feat ever done with reverb in hip hop. Reverb never sounded so good. Like it just, and the thing was, no one could ever recapture that effect. People have tried and they squash it. I don't know what happened, but they hit on some magic that day, and it's always gonna be that's one of like the greatest records of all times. You know, just that, you know, that everything was exploding. P.S. and then he just dropped on time. It's a classic. It's a classic.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal record, and not in many ways, but those are two of the ways that you guys reminded me of each other a little bit. So
I wish Joe would have did Give You Love.
might be having a different conversation then.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, with Lyor, how did you sign the Next Plateau before you saw him again, or what happened in between?
Well, what happened was, like I said, that was out of me and Mo Love was my, you know, he's my blood cousin. So that was basically out of everybody's pockets. Everybody had chipped in money to make that project happen. So we actually had the record in the stores, and it wasn't nothing happening. And, you know, everybody was down. You know, it's like, why you didn't leave it the way it was? And it was on me. So I felt obligated to do better. So I was at a hip hop party around my old block on the 9 in Washington Avenue in the BX. And it was funny because they were playing music in a spot they normally don't play music at around there. They was playing in front of one of my brothers in hip hop, Easy AD. They was playing in front of his building, that little park where, you know, people from around that way knows where it is. They had the basketball court, and they were playing music, and I was sitting down. I was almost like I was there, but I wasn't there because I was still in a funk over the disappointment of the record. Because before I even finished, when Red Alert played it at the Latin Quarters, it literally, like, people on the dance floor, it literally cleared the dance floor. So they didn't want that in hip hop. I mean, everybody left. It was like not some, you know, if it was a little bit of people, you would have felt better, but everybody. It was literally 1 or 2 people on the dance floor.
Wow.
So I was down on that, and the DJ, I think it was my man Lala. I can't really remember the DJ because, like I said, I really wasn't there. But when he put on Substitution, I was like, oh, you got to do something with that right away. So I went back and I somehow found funds that I didn't know was possible. And we went back in and we did We did Eagle Tripping, you know, and first, you know, we had to find, you know, Kool Keith's cousin. He had to go to his cousin to get the record, and you know, then we took it in, and the rest is what it was, you know. But
So
that's
then,
how it came about.
did you guys shop to Next Plateau, or they came to you, or how did that work?
They came to us because, like I said, we were doing everything independently. So we couldn't even, this is the thing, we couldn't press up Eagle Tripping. So there was no copies. And you had Red playing it, Mr. Magic played it. Every DJ was spinning it, and people were running to the stores. Where's the record? Where's the record? So you had a big buildup. So Red, because, you know, Red was our boy, Red Alert, had set up a bunch of meetings for us at a bunch of those independent labels, you know, Next Plateau, Tommy Boy, but we didn't make it past Next Plateau. That's another story. Actually, ever go into it.
Yeah, break it down. That's interesting.
You know, so, you know, my boy, he became my good friend, Eddie O'Loughlin, the president of Next Plateau. He was stressing to us the urgency. We got the demand. We got to get this record out right away. And so he said, you know, we were considering really signing there. But he asked me and Mo Love to get the artwork, you know, to go on the back, you know, the credits. I mean, not artwork, the credits, you know. And when we came back in the office, Kool Keith had already signed the contract.
Wow.
So it was like, oh, well, and we signed, and that's we didn't make it to any other label. We just took it right there, and he got it to his word. He got it out. Like, it was literally out in 2 days. I don't know how he pulled that off, because the pressing plants, they have like an order.
Right.
So I guess he probably, you know, greased them a little bit more or something. I don't know. But he got the record out there in 2 days.
So then did you guys sign, because I know this was, of course, in the 86 era, there weren't that many albums coming out yet in rap. You guys were right at the end of that, where we see the explosion in 87, 88 with albums. But did you sign initially a single deal with the option for an album, or did you sign a straight everything?
It was a straight singles deal.
Okay.
And that was the thing. We did so many singles. You know, we did Part 2, we did Funky, we did Dane. I mean, it's a bunch.
Yeah.
We did so many singles, but by the time we was supposed to do the album, if we had used all the singles, there would have been no new music. That's how many singles we had. Yeah, we were the king of the singles. You know, we would do, see, it was a special era, and that's why, like, you had 2 special eras in rap, really, that people don't focus on, because they deal with the more commercial times of what people call rap. The first was when there were no records, you know, and you just had to be fly, and somehow people in Tokyo would know about the Cold Crush Brothers. You understand what kind of talent you have to have for your cassette to move state to state, state to state, and then start going international? That's special. People can't do that today with the internet, and they're already there. So that's a special era. Then you had our times, where it had went to radio. Now it had progressed from cassette to now you have radio, and the radio was not subjected yet to the influence of the major labels. So now it was, if you just had a fly record or anything, they will play it. You know, no payola, no got to get them Nick tickets, and that was a special era. So we would do promos, like we did Bait for Red Alert, we did a thing for Chuck Chill Out, a thing for the Awesome 2 on W, and all of these things were big and had to be pressed up into records. Bait was on Red Alert's compilation album. I forgot where Chuck used the other promo. See, that was a special era. That doesn't happen today. Because for one, you can't even get a promo played on radio. even though that's why radio's dead now, you know, and people says, well, I can do it online. But you understand what I'm saying? It was a special era. So you can take something literally that had no intentions of being that. We were just putting it out as like a filler between the next single, you know, just to keep the name out there. And it turns into records. So those are special eras, and not too many groups can say that. You know, it started really, I'll say, with the Fearless Four. They did a promo for Mr. Magic, and that later became a record. So, you know,
yeah, I think
that's a special era. It doesn't happen anymore.
Dan, it's to your point, the last one, now that you're saying that I really remember that did it was much later, but was Ludacris. When he was on the radio, he did his promos, and they became songs through Timberland.
Yeah.
But that was the last that I really remember.
The last of the Mohicans.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Your MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.